Nah, there's no way this chapter has fucking 1 billion hours left, alright? He's here now? No. No.
今回の件、非常に興味深く読ませていただきました。
Can you imagine being someone that like dips into my stream like just randomly for the first time and they like AFK'd watching Genshin Impact and then they either see me like playing fucking with dinosaurs or see me reading a fucking like 15 billion year old visual novel? They'd be like, the fuck is this shit?
このような研究が数十年にわたり眠り続けてきたとは。
That's me actually.
ああ、驚きです。
ふむふむ。
旧日本軍が戦時中に行っていた BC 兵器の研究はほとんどが実らず、研究基礎もすべて米軍に接収され、何も残っていないと思っておりましたよ。
この研究は軍上層部にもほとんど相手にされなかったと聞いております。
なるほど。故に誰にも知られず、そして GHQ の追及も受けなかったというわけですな。その意味においてだけは本当に幸運でした。高野先生の研究を高野さんが引き継ぐとは面白い。これも因縁ですかな。
Okay, Valerian side, thank you. Very, very important information for chat.
まるであなたの体を借りて個人が研究を完成させようとしているかのようです。
本当にそうかもしれませんわね。私も奇妙な因縁を感じます。
Takano adored Takano Hifumi and called him grandfather, but she hadn't revealed that relationship to others. She realized it wouldn't be beneficial for people to think that she was involving personal feelings in her continuing Dr. Takano's research. So publicly, she once had exchanges with Takano Hifumi, and after his death, she discovered his research documents with his remains and chose to carry it on. At least that's how the story went.
それで先生がいかがでしょうか。
いくつかの省庁がね、非常に強い関心を持ったよ。中川君が言うには、防衛庁の技術研究本部が強い関心を示してくれてね、研究のスポンサーを名乗り出てくれた。
おお、それは朗報じゃないですか。おめでとう、高野さん。
ありがとうございます。
なんでも向こうが言うにはね。
There's a research council for next generation deterrence being led by experts from several different ministries. Man, some of these fuckers on this goddamn chapter, just like the voice actors got lazy and didn't want to voice the whole line. They just like say like 2 words.
この中でアルファベットプロジェクトというのがあるらしい。高野さんはご存知ですかな?
There was no way she would know about something like that. But it was very possible for these nationalists to research something dangerous without citizens knowing about it. Society forms something like a web made of connections between people. People hold hands with other people who share the same ideas and end up knitting a net. Of course, some nets are well known, but there are some secret ones too. So there was no way of guessing just how the men at this meeting were connected. A society involving research into deterrent weapons for the next generation, the Alphabet Project. With those words, it was possible to imagine what that might entail. Deterrent weapons, that usually refers to nuclear technology. Weapons are normally used to destroy enemies. However, the general idea of deterrent weapon is very different. The assumption is that they won't actually be used against anyone. Nuclear weapons are largely used as a threat to prevent enemy invasion. Both the US and Soviet possess large stockpiles of nuclear arms, keeping each other in check. But they will never actually use them. Wait, chat. You know what the most hilarious shit is? I don't know why. I saw a fucking clip recently of Trump talking about Canada, and that just like keeps reminding me of Fallout. And then the most recent Fallout episode, they like They had a moment where they're all like, "Oh, Canada, you're Canadian." Ah! I was like, "What the fuck?" Well, what if that actually happens, man? He's done. Listen, I don't trust those damn Canadians. Because if they did, there'd be nuclear war and both countries would be destroyed. So they're like a legendary weapon you never draw. Why did you annex us? You're Canadian, Acero? Oh, nah. Chat, get him. Get that guy. Get those Canadians. Of course, the last resort only works because both sides have nuclear weapons. If one side lacks them, then they lose all military negotiation power. What's wrong with Canada? I don't know. Tim Hortons. In other words, nations without nukes are powerless before nuclear armed states. That can't be true. Japan abandoned nukes, and it still functions as a nation today. Tim Hortons is fire though. Tim's is ooh, someone's saying shit about Tim's. Hey, fuck you, Timmy's is goated. Bro, every foreigner that shows up always talks about Tim Hortons. You're right, I think it's ass. Oh my god. We got some Tim Horton ops in chat. Japan abandoned nukes, but lies under the nuclear umbrella by allying itself with America. That means the nation functions thanks to America's nukes. However, that also means we must resign ourselves to forever being a vassal of America. In order for Japan to escape that and become a powerful nation equal to America, it must possess its own deterrence arms and step out of that nuclear umbrella. That society must have been put together by experts who believe in that ideal. Given that even the name Alphabet Project makes sense, nuclear weapons are weapons of mass destruction. However, weapons of mass destruction aren't always nuclear. They also include biological weapons and chemical weapons. Atomic, biological, chemical, the initials of these three words make ABC. That's why weapons of mass destruction are sometimes called ABC weapons. I won't go into weapons of mass destruction that don't belong to those three categories. ABC Alphabet. In other words, Alphabet Project must be a code for research into weapons of mass destruction. As it happened, this guess of Takono's was correct.
本来は日本が核武装をするのが正しいのです。戦後、平和国家として確立し、多大な国際貢献を果たした我が国は常任理事国入りを果たし。
Hang on. The hell?
核武装してこそ初めて一人前の国家として認められる。それこそが戦後日本100年の悲願なのです。
さようです。だが現実には核不拡散条約により核は大国だけが独占。また国内世論は核アレルギーに染まり、内外からの締め付けで実現を不可能にしております。
生物化学兵器は別名貧者の核兵器とも呼ばれる。核を持てない小国はすでに熱心に研究を進めているという話です。
高野さん、誤解しないでくださいよ。
Has there been intro yet? Nope.
この度の研究は最近兵器の保有が目的ではありません。
Chat, by the way, we are 100 minutes into this chapter and we still haven't gotten to the intro.
同種の兵器が他国によって国内に持ち込まれる危険性について事前に十分な対処を行うための研究です。自衛のための研究であることを誤解しないようにお願いいたしますよ。
はい、存じております。
Takano hated this Japanese tendency to make excuses, but she didn't let it show on her face. No matter what they said, they already saw the value in using this research towards biological weaponry. However, in truth, that was just an excuse as well. If they actually wanted to research biological weapons, then it would be much faster to research diseases like smallpox and anthrax instead of an unidentified disease like Hinomazawa syndrome. What happened to Dino? Fucking server's dead. This fucking idiot game devs fucking broke the server. In other words, Takano needed a powerful sponsor who could back her up with funding, personnel, and a facility to conduct her research. So she used her connections and turned to the old men behind the government and economy. that game always got problems happening. It's because the fucking developers are indie as fuck. And they just like do whatever the fuck whenever the fuck. They like don't put out any announcements, nothing. They just fucking release patches nonstop. Therefore, her project wasn't officially recognized by the defense agency. To be exact, the people who secretly controlled the defense agency were the ones who knew about it. These masterminds diverted funds from the defense agency to the Alphabet project. And then they pushed for Takano's research to be part of it. Takano gets her funding, and the influencers get to drain public funds through kickbacks. Considering that, it was doubtful this project was genuinely about researching the next generation of deterrence arms. It was probably just an excuse for the masterminds to funnel money into their own pockets. Well, those complicated matters didn't matter to Takano. Whatever those old men and influencers were planning wasn't her business. As long as she could get the funding for her research, that was enough. Either way, Takano had found her sponsor. It was one of the biggest organizations around too. This had always been her grandfather's dream. It's not our fault that the servers are down though. Why do you put us through the slop? What do you mean? Did you just call Higu slop, bro?
中川君としては今回の件十分に研究が進んだら丸ごと買い取って構わないと言ってくれてる。まだまだ未完の研究だが、その将来性については十分に理解できてるようだ。
おっしゃる通りです。この研究はまだ道半ばで、十分な資金と施設、人材が欠かせません。
それでだね。ここからが交渉になるんだが。
Also, I don't know if you guys saw, but on the Fabits who play Dino server, they fucking nerfed mutations, so you need to entomb so that you could get buffed stronger in mutations. Like as in like the percentages got nerfed, so you need to like entomb multiple times to get like the best versions or like to stack it, I think.
こう言っちゃ悪いんだが、君一人に任せるには荷が重いと考えてる。
Alright, Honkyo, hop on your third alt account. Come on. Hearing that put quite the damper on Takano's ecstasy.
私はお金が欲しくて研究しているのではありません。一人の研究者としての知的探求心からです。私に必要なのはスポンサー。先方が求めるのは成果。そういう関係に期待したかったのですが。
Takano realized she was talking rather breathlessly, so she tried to calm herself down. Either way, they'd be backing the research. Considering they're hoping for results that merit the budget, they probably feel that Takano is still too young to handle it.
分かってます。
If Honkyo's your listen, if Honkyo is your homie and Saucy is your homie blood, that speaks more about yourself. And Hero's just fucking deranged, so.
高野さんが今日まで積み上げてきた研究
You just named a bunch of deranged people as your homies.
それはあんまりですからね。そこは私もよく分かってます。もちろん向こうにもそれは伝えました。それで出てきた折衷案がこれです。
まず
Oh, can we get done with these fucking old fuckers and like go back to like the actual main characters? I'm tired of hearing these fucking old politicians.
理事会の承認を経れば正式に予算をつけることができますからね。高野さんには客員という形でプロジェクトに参加していただき、研究に携わるという形になります。
If she wanted their funding, she'd have to fall under their authority, of course. So far, she had no objections.
研究会は今回の研究に予算をつけるにあたり、いくつかの条件を挙げています。一つは、先ほど先生が申し上げた、この度の研究に関する分野で優秀な才能を持つ人物に研究筆頭を委ねることです。
お言葉を返すようですが、私以上にこの研究に詳しい人物が、高野先生を除いて存在するとお思いですか？
まあ、そこは高野さんを抑えて。お気持ちはごもっともです。
それでは、その人物に私が研究を売り渡すのと何も変わらないではありませんか。全く話が違います。
落ち着きなさい、高野さん。
The cunning old men didn't miss sight of the faint leak of anger that crossed Takano's expression. They gave evasive laughs as if remarking how immature she still was if she let her emotions show over such a little thing. However, they weren't laughing to look down on Takano. On the contrary, they were trying to tell her to wait until the end.
もちろん そこはあなたのやりやすいように手を打ちます。小泉先生からあなたを第4ある小泉先生にたくさん大丈夫で、ここは一つ私に任せてください。あなたもそして連中も納得するうまい妥協点を用意します。
と申しますと？
その人物の人選は私が握っているということですよ。
Everyone chortled except Takano. At the moment she joined in. In other words, he meant that he would find just the right person. The defense agency had suggested finding an expert to lead the project because they didn't feel comfortable with just Takano. However, Takano's sponsor was the one that has to find such a person. In that moment, Takano realized it. Ah, how wonderful it is to have such a powerful backer.
あなたがやりやすい候補者、高野さんはその中から組みやすいと思う相手を選んだ。
Takano felt better after hearing that. While she wouldn't be the official head of the project, she would end up leading it from the shadows. Of course, she wasn't an expert per se. Having a partner would actually be
こ
beneficial.
の件、しばらく先方と私の方で調整します。もちろん、高野さんの満足のいく形で決着できるようにしますので、しばらく朗報を待ってください。
I'm wondering if this is Tomatake or this is fucking Irie.
お世話になりますが。
そうだそうだ、防衛庁の話だけじゃないよ。厚生省の永田君も一枚噛んでくれるそうだよ。国立感染症予防研究所の伊藤君を紹介してくれてね。機材や技術についてのバックアップを名乗り出てくれてる。
本当ですか？ありがとうございます。
もうこれは立派な国家プロジェクトですな。おめでとう高野さん。これも今日までのあなたと、そして高野先生の地道な研究が評価された結果です。
いいえ、すべて高野先生の努力の成果です。私などまだ何も。
謙虚なのは実にいいことです。小泉先生もおっしゃっておられましたが、本当に高野さんはいい方ですな。可愛がられているというのもうなずけます。
それでですね、向こうとしては高野さんの身分を防衛庁で預かってしまいたいようです。幸い高野さんは医師免許をお持ちですからね。研究本部の医官として身分を保証するようです。
それは
Why did our microphone just
公務員
change?
になれということですか？これは意外な話ですね。
アルファベットプロジェクトに携わる研究機関の
All
ほ
their
とんどは
microphones just got
公的機
crispier.
関です。
The hell?
今回の研究は陸自も強い関心を寄せており、職員を陸自から派遣したいと強く要望してきています。ですので場合によっては身分は陸自の扱いになるかもしれません。
まあこの辺は
Oh,
役
this
人の
microphone
縄
did
張
it.
り
This
争
guy's
いだと
microphone
思っ
did
て
it.
ください。その役人たちの上に立つには役人の身分が必要になってくると、そういうわけですな。まあ、もちろんどういう形になろうとも高野さんが不快に思うようなことにはしませんから安心してください。
わかりました。そのあたりはお任せいたします。しかし高野先生がかつて旧日本軍にこの研究の援助を求めたと自衛隊が興味を示されたのが、
それは仕方ありますまいな。戦況が悪化していた日本軍が求めていたのは即効性があり、決して高野先生の研究を見下していたわけではないはずです。
That wasn't true, of course. Sakura already heard that confession from the old man. She exhaled. To her, it was like the meeting in front of her was happening somewhere far away. She had longed for this day to come and worked so hard to reach it. Finally, her grandfather and his research were attaining recognition. This was the day she had dreamed of, so she was frightened just imagining that it might be an actual dream. True joy can't be felt all at once. Sometimes it's a delayed reaction. Takano thought that must be exactly what she was feeling.
すると思います。多分左官クラスの階級が与えられるのではないでしょうか。となると高野さんは副隊長の地位になりますから、おそらく3差ではないかと。
これは素晴らしい。高野3差ですか。 いやいや、羨ましいですな。男に生まれたからには、一度くらいは自分のことを階級で呼ばれてみたいものですが。いやはやいやはや、高野さんさですか。
三叉何ですか？
ああ、自衛隊の階級のことで三等陸佐のことです。企業でいうところの副部長くらいでしょうね。おそらくその階級がプロジェクト発足時に高野さんに与えられることになるかと思います。
旧日本軍でいうところの少佐ですよ。そういえば奇遇ですな。高野先生も旧軍では少佐の階級にあられたそうではありませんか。
Takano remembered suddenly. They were right. Her grandfather had been a lieutenant commander in the Japanese military. Everything she had done until today was so she could continue her grandfather's research. Now everything had fallen into place. She had been granted the same rank as her grandfather. She had always believed that succeeding his research would be proof that they had a bond tighter than blood. And now she would even be the same rank as him. This is fate, Takano thought. Maybe this is even a message from Grandpa. Yes, it must have been a shout of encouragement from heaven. It was proof that she inherited not only his research, but his will as well. Takano couldn't help but feel a sense of destiny for attaining the rank of a major.
おじいちゃん、私、ようやくここまで来たよ。
Nobody else could hear her say that. But her grandfather in heaven could. That's what Takano believed. She had only come so far. There were still a lot of things to do for this research to be recognized as great work. Otherwise, her grandfather won't become a god. She wouldn't become one either. You must become a god. That was in her grandfather's will. I was unable to do so. That line preceded it. It was her grandfather's dying wish. Her grandfather entrusted it to her. All of his research. A god can't be physically brought back to life. A god is made in the hearts of the people who remain alive. Her grandfather will live on in her heart. His exploits will be known to many, and all the scholars will fight to read his documents, to steal them from each other. And they will learn about Hifumi Takano, who began his research during the war. They will know that nobody understood him and that he ended up devoting his lonely life to his research. And finally, they will extol his grand achievement. Crazy person. So, how do we still not have a intro? Whoa, different background. Alright, I mean, maybe we'll get a fucking intro after this. Let's just see. God, bro. More fucking political yapping. Allow me to introduce you. Is this Tomitake? Oh, no, it is EDA. I told you. Oh, my God.
どうも、入江と申します。
EDA seemed extremely nervous at our first meeting. He probably thought I was in charge of some suspicious organization.
萎縮しなくて結構ですわ。
How does Sakano go from this to the fucking psychopath that we see?
高野とお呼びください。
恐縮です。この度はお引き立ていただき深く感謝いたします。
どうぞおかけになってください。
Ooh, damn. A model lower middle class citizen was a good way to describe Kyosuke Ide's demeanor. One could also say he was the stereotypical type of person to get conveniently discarded after those crafty elders used their seniority to constantly pick on him. He certainly doesn't seem as cunning as I am, but that doesn't mean he isn't ambitious. Like me, he's a young person who dreams of accomplishing something great and leaving his name upon generations to come. While he acts humble in person like this, his articles were actually progressive as well as aggressive. The gap between the two was quite intense.
平見沢症候群の資料を読ませていただきました。
いかがでしたか？
その非常に驚くことばかりでした。
ADA's mic just broke.
確かに
And
今日の
it
医
just
学の
fixed.
暗部に踏み込みかねない内容ではありますが、未だ世界で誰も解明していない神秘という点で知的興奮を抑えきれません。
Hearing that made me chuckle. ADA is more than interested in Higurashi syndrome, which is good enough for me. She had been through the ringer with far too many people to reach this day, so her honed intuition could tell. She would get along well with this man. Even if he isn't useful to me, he won't cause any problems. For both me and my sponsor, he's the best person possible for the job.
私こそ驚いております。入江先生ほどの博識かつ経験豊富な方が責任ある地位も仕事も与えられず、医局のこれは医学界の重大な損失と言わざるを得ません。
Someone closed the window? True. Idiot laughed. He probably thought I didn't know, but I had received detailed documents on him. So I knew why he was exiled from the limelight despite his rare talent and achievements. He displayed extraordinary skill working under a neurosurgery expert, and everyone expected a bright future from him. But he was kicked out due to an ethical controversy. ADA's pet theory was that the antisocial behavior of individuals could be explained by brain disorders. He believed that no one in this world was born a villain, and that they were all just poor patients in need of treatment. He proposed that they were all proper and normal when born, yet as they matured, psychogenesis and various exogenous factors caused brain disorders that made them into villains. Therefore, what those evil people need isn't punishment, it's treatment. Oh, he's the I can fix it type of guy. I can fix them. And if their diseases are treated, they will become a good citizen again. That manner of thinking actually fell in line with the Confucian belief of innate human goodness. According to this theory, humans are born with the capacity for altruism towards their kind, and it is only afterward that they learn and acquire cruelty. ADA believed that acquisition was the result of brain disorders. The human brain creates human thoughts. Therefore, if one becomes emotionally ill, that means their brain is ill. So if their brain gets treatment, they will recover emotionally too. That field was called psychosurgery. It's fallen out of practice in the current Heisei era, but the surgical techniques were applied until mid-Showa, especially since it produced spectacular results on the chronic mental patient that was said to be incurable. The man who invented it even won a Nobel Prize. That was how revolutionary it was. Humans think, that's why they become ill. Everyone knows that's why those who overthink matters are prone to mental illness. When the organ that thinks and debates grows ill, humans deviate from social behavior. That part is called the frontal lobe. Oh, Kim Kardashian's fucked. Put simply, psychosurgery is surgery performed to operate on the frontal lobe. This kind of surgery doesn't require removing the whole epicranium. A small hole is drilled through the cranium and a special scalpel is inserted down to cut it. It's not a major surgery, just a technique for quickly operating on the precious frontal lobe. Indeed, it was revolutionary in its simplicity. All the severely ill mental patients miraculously recovered, so the technique could spread around the world quickly. Those with obstinate and chronic mental illness, the severely ill trapped in deep, inescapable depression, all of those could be saved by this technique. Throughout history, humans have come up with many different religions and magic tricks to heal emotional injuries. So needless to say, the idea of being able to treat them with a surgical technique was truly revolutionary. Are they talking about lobotomy? I think so. Idia admired psychosurgery and pushed forward in the field of surgical techniques to treat human souls. However, from the modern human rights standpoint, severing a portion of the brain simply because someone is emotionally disturbed is absolutely out of the question. People gradually started to think differently and said that psychosurgery was inhumane. The frontal lobe controls how people think, but it is also the part that makes humans act human. There were quite a few cases where the cut caused drastic, irreversible changes in the patient. a baseless happiness born from lack of thought, a change in personality, a loss of interest in everything, major mood swings due to lack of control over one's emotions. Some even lost part of their memories. Of course, some didn't even survive the surgery. By the mid-1960s, use of psychosurgery declined. Also, due to the development of psychotropic medicine, the surgery was hardly performed anymore anyway. Yet some people still believed in the idea and continued to perform the surgery and gather clinical data. They wanted people to recognize the value of the technique once again. Some of these surgeries were performed without consent. One theory is that in Japan alone, there were thousands of people who woke up from general anesthesia only to find part of their brain had been removed. Today, to perform such a surgery without a patient's consent is considered totally unethical, but it was different at that time. For one thing, the idea that doctors required prior patient consent was proliferated in the modern Heisei era. Therefore, people at the time didn't think it was that big of an issue. It was only later that people started to argue that it was inhumane. Finally, a decision was reached and the curtain closed with the rejection of psychosurgery. Later, the Japanese Society of Psychology and Neurology passed a resolution to end psychosurgery. After that, psychosurgery was banned throughout Japan and made the forbidden subject of Japanese medicine. Irie was a leading person in the field of psychosurgery. He continued to advocate its effectiveness and results. Therefore, he was treated as a war criminal who practiced inhumane medicine, and he was exiled from the public eye. However, that doesn't mean he changed his beliefs. He still believes that the immoral behavior is caused by brain disorders, and the secret of treating them is, in fact, hidden in the brain. So the existence of Hinazawa syndrome, caused by the parasites living in the brain that control human emotions, actually affirms his theory.
私ごときでよろしければこの度の話ぜひ引き受けさせていただきたいと思います
Of course, given Idie's history, he would never turn down this offer. Despite his mild-mannered appearance, Idie was possessed by a mighty ambition. There was no way he didn't desire a chance to complete research that would prove himself to the medical society that ostracized him. I'm handing him that chance on a silver
ありが
platter.
とうございます入江先生ならばきっと良いお返事をいただけると信じておりました当方もあなたのような専門家を迎えられとても助かります
しかし私などが所長でいいのでしょうかそれは高野さんがやられた方がよろしいでしょう私は単なる医者に過ぎません人の上に立ったことなど
ご安心くださいそれにつきましては私も全面的にサポートいたしますトップは制服ではなく背広からというのが上の希望でもありますお気に召しませんか入江所長という呼び名は
いえいやしかし
Idie laughed to hide his embarrassment.
現在ひなみ沢に研究施設を建設中です表向きは診療所ということになっています入江先生にご快諾をいただけましたので入江診療所という名前にいたしましょう
一国一城の主とはもったいない話です
あと身分を陸自で預かることになりますので先生の席は陸自の医官という扱いになります私の上司ですので二佐の階級になりますわね入江二佐という呼び名はいかがでしょ
う私は軍人じゃありません二佐という呼び名は遠慮させていただきたいものです所長だって恐れ多いくらいですいやいや
He's getting a chance to research brain parasites, plus being given the title of director of a new clinic as camouflage, plus it comes with staff and funding. He'll even have support from the Defense Agency and the Ministry of Health and Welfare, as well as research lab with state-of-the-art equipment. No wonder he's laughing so excitedly. However, there are some risks too. Since he'll be involved with the secret research, he has an obligation to keep it a secret. Also, he's going to an area plagued by the mysterious and bizarre disease. There's no guarantee he won't contract it himself. But Idie is too young to even think about those things. Aware of all the risks, he quickly signed a contract with the ambition to have people recognize his talent once again. When I saw him sign the contract, I finally relaxed. I knew he would agree to join us, but at the same time I was afraid of the chance that he'd refuse. Selecting a director proved more difficult than expected, and the only candidate Takano paired well was Irie. So if Irie refused to take the position, then frankly she'd be placed in an even worse situation. Now that Irie has agreed to take the position, research on Hinamizawa syndrome can finally begin. The research center, or rather the clinic, will be completed next spring. The Ministry of Health and Welfare and the Defense Agency will send the best equipment and staff, plus an abundant supply of funds. Then, finally, our research will begin in earnest. Everything is going well. Of course it is. I've put so much effort into making sure things went smoothly up to this point. Hey, Waffle Maker with the 17 months!
宣誓書へのサインを終わりました。
ありがとう。これからよろしくお願いいたしますわ。入江所長。
こちらこそよろしくお願いします、高野さん。仲良くやりましょう。私も全身全霊をかけて頑張ります。
こちらこそお互い最善を尽くしましょう。
Now the position of director has been filled. Everything is set. Oh my god, more pull up. Yo, Keiichi just whip open that door and fucking stab everybody.
おめでとう、高野さん。高野さんさでしたかな？
これもすべて先生方のお力添えがあったからこそです。高野美代、皆様に心より感謝させていただきます。
まあ高野さんに本当の意味でおめでとうが言えるのは研究が成功に終わった時ですな。ようやく入り口にたどり着いたに過ぎませんよ。
おっしゃる通りです。寝る間を惜しんで研究に身を投じていく覚悟です。
高野先生が成し遂げられなかったさらにその先へ至られることを私ども一度楽しみに
まあ先生、今日はそういう堅苦しい話は抜きにしましょう。今日は高野さんのこれからと入江機関の設立を祝って乾杯と参りましょう。
乾杯の前にご挨拶申し上げます。厚生省の永田と申します。どうぞよろしくお願いいたします。
ああ、高野さん、彼をバシバシこき使ってやってください。彼のところの研究所は医療機関のバックアップをしてくれます。技術的に困ったことがあったらいつでも頼ってやってください。
こき使うだなんてそんな。こちらこそお世話になります。高野と申します。どうかよろしくお願いします。
高野さん、こちらも紹介しましょう。陸自から出向の富武君と小此木君です。陸自側からのバックアップをします。
Okay, well.
ぜひご挨拶させてください。
Damn, Okunogi's such a fucking... Yeah, nah. Okunogi's a fucking simp. He fucking stabbed Tomitake in the back when they were from the same thing.
はじめまして、富武と申します。この度のプロジェクトの監査役を仰せつかりました。どうかよろしくお願いいたします。
Funding for our research is largely coming from the SDF. It's only natural for the SDF to assign a watchdog to make sure reasonable research is taking place. However, someone in a position like that should be my opponent. Why was someone in that position invited to this private party? Does that mean this auditor is on my side too? Seeing that through thorough groundwork, I couldn't help but feel the strength of having a sponsor all over again.
私は直接はひなみ沢に赴きませんが。
あら、ひなみ沢は空気。ぜひ仕事以外でも気軽に。
ありがとうございます。そうさせていただきます。
If he really is an auditor, I should maintain a good relationship with this man. He'll hold the key to all the future adjustments of our funding so long as we continue drawing it from the SDF.
小此木と申します。
God, this guy's so fucking ugly. Why did they change his outfit, by the way? He has the same outfit here as Tomitake and the other ones, but here he just like fucking, what is this? Goofy ass fit.
よろしくお願いいたします。
彼は不正規船部隊の一つ山犬の隊長です。ひなみ沢に常駐し三佐を直接サポートします。
Safari guard? Yeah.
ボディーガードみたいなものと思っていいのかしら。
要人護衛、秘密保持が主な任務です。三佐の直接の手足となりますので
よろしくお願いします。
Shut the fuck up, Okanogi. Dumb bitch. Tomitaka seems to be an honest type for a military man, but this Okanogi person looks like the complete opposite. His main job is to preserve secrets, but I bet he's also good with espionage tactics, like counterintelligence and information control. Yes, that would explain his demeanor. Since the SDF is funding our research on Hinazawa syndrome, of course this is considered a military operation. Therefore, this research has to be done in secret. That's why a unit like this is necessary. Besides, it's very reassuring to have someone capable of combat working under me. I should maintain a good relationship with him too.
さあ挨拶はこれくらいにしてささ飛竹君も足を崩して今日は入江機関の前途を祝してブレイクで参りましょう。
While this is supposed to celebrate the establishment of the Idia Institute, Idia himself isn't here. But that is his job after all. Idia is simply a puppet to fill a seat. Of course, I expect him to help me a little with his expertise, but he's ultimately an outsider. This is supposed to be a gathering where I would show my appreciation to those who helped me establish the Idia Institute. But it has turned into them thanking me for all my efforts. I'm always the one to pour the alcohol for others, but today people are pouring alcohol in my glass. The new participants were trying to make me happy, and all the top people talk to me casually. They all praise my hard work and my efforts. My research is now recognized by many institutions, and I'm ready to spread my wings open wide. And all the people who are expecting some returns once the research accomplishes something are trying to curry favor with me. But right now, I'm just very grateful regardless of their motives.
それでは入江機関の設立と高野美代君の今後ますますの発展を祈願して完成せ温度をお願いいたします。
It's like a dream. I know, this is just the beginning and I shouldn't be satisfied with this alone. But just for today, I can forget about everything else and enjoy the celebration. I'm not a heavy drinker, but the drinks taste good tonight. And the more I drink, the happier I get. Ah, this really is wonderful. To be called a major by Tomitake and the others is wonderful too. That's the rank my grandfather had during the war. That means I finally caught up with my grandfather. This is only the beginning. From here on, I intend to reach what my grandfather couldn't. This is the best night of my life. Intro? No. I ended up leaving to fix my makeup. I'm filled with elation. I need to feel fresh air to calm myself down. My heart is about to explode because I'm so happy. The gathering is taking place a little distance away from the main building. The restroom is in the main building, so I need to walk across the hallway. A beautiful and well-maintained Japanese garden is visible from the hallway. It's raining. I usually don't like rain, but I don't mind it at all today. I feel like even the raindrops are congratulating me. The cool air feels pleasant on my hot skin. It took me a moment to notice how unsteady my footsteps have become. Maybe I drank a little too much. It isn't like me to drink more than I can handle. I'll bet Tomitake fucking slides in here. Although this is a party, I don't want to embarrass myself, so I decided to cool off a little by looking at the beautiful Japanese garden. I found an elegant chair set on red carpet nearby and sat down on it. Since I was with the associates until now, I was forced to constantly be on guard against embarrassing myself. But now that I was alone, I could let go and truly relax. When I looked up to the sky, I realized it's still raining hard, but in the distance, the horizon is still a little lighter. Maybe it won't be raining for much longer. Well, that's normal. Rain stops eventually. No matter how cold it is or how hard it's raining, rain stops eventually. I saw a pair of sandals and an umbrella, almost inviting me, so I took them into the garden. The tasteless laughter coming from the party out sounds far away. I tilted the umbrella and looked up to the sky. I felt the raindrops hit my face and gazed up at the sky for a while, forgetting all about my hair getting wet. Fucking flashbang. I thought the rain would cool down my boiling heart, but as my body got cold, I started to feel miserable. My bare feet were all swollen, and the throbbing pain I felt made them seem twice their normal size. The gravel road continued forever. I didn't even know what direction I was headed in anymore. I could no longer hear my pursuer. I had probably lost him by running through the woods like mad. My body was covered in scratches. I finally started to feel the pain from that. I felt both cold and hungry. I'm pretty sure this is back when she was a kid. There was no place nearby to take shelter from the rain. I was just on a little path in the woods. My worst fear was that I could end up heading back towards the orphanage. After bolting and losing my sense of direction, I had crushed a man's finger. I didn't think I bit it off, but I was sure it would leave a scar. Taking that into consideration, it was very clear to me what kind of torture awaited me back at the orphanage. Therefore, I'd have to reach the House of Love and Mercy. If only it had been daytime, then I could easily have found the right way to go. However, with this rain, there was nothing I could do, but I couldn't stop. I had to keep walking until I reached something. I wondered if Eriko and the others had escaped safely. I didn't know how many people came after us, but at least one came after me. In other words, it meant they had a better chance. Did they reach the House of Love and Mercy? Were they drying themselves with soft towels? And if they still remembered me, would they save a towel for me too? I felt so cold. I wanted to find shelter and sit down, but there was nothing of the sort. I saw a tree that looked like I could take shelter under it, but the branches and the leaves were dripping with water. It was then that I realized that the sky was gradually getting darker. With this day ended rain, there were no streetlights where I was. Soon enough, it would be totally dark. Then I wouldn't be able to walk any further. I just wanted to sit down even if it was raining. But if I did sit down, I probably wouldn't be able to stand up again. If I hadn't escaped with Eriko and the others, I wouldn't have to go through such misery. But compared to what I had to go through at the orphanage, this was nothing. Thinking about that was the only way to make myself move. But when I thought about that, it's true that this freezing cold rain was far better than my life at the orphanage. But that was only compared to the life at the orphanage. Was it better than the normal lives of normal kids my age? I didn't even need to think about that. Even my parents were alive. Although we weren't rich, we led a normal life. The gentle smiles and forgivable selfishness. The sound of my mother cooking a breakfast in the morning. The sound of a newspaper being folded. Precious memories like that. I didn't need anything else. I had plenty of friends. I had fun at school. I didn't like my teacher, but I liked studying. I had everything I needed. That was enough for me. I never complained. I never did anything bad. So why was this happening to me? Everything went downhill after that train accident. The die of fate kept rolling a 1. The die never showed its good side to me. If the accident was my fault, then I could have accepted it, but it wasn't. I wasn't even there. I waited for my parents at home. I liked going to the mall with them. We always had a meal at the restaurant in the mall. I always told them to let me know if they were going to the mall, but on that day, they went without me while I went to my friend's house to play. My friend wasn't in, so I went back home. I didn't see anyone at home. I found a note that said they were going to the mall. I regretted going to my friend's house. I waited at home. They didn't come home. They were still gone by dinner time. I was getting hungry and got angry when my parents were leaving me. I thought they were having dinner at the mall restaurant without me. If I hadn't gone to my friend's house, I wouldn't be eating dinner at the restaurant too. I loved the little flags that came with the kids' meal. I was collecting those flags. Yes, I was. I was trying to collect 20 of them, thinking that once I collected 20, something wonderful would happen. But I couldn't collect 20 of them. I only needed one more. If I had one more, maybe the accident wouldn't have happened. A very sad memory of a flag from a kid's meal. I kept waiting for my parents to come home from the mall. I was hungry, so I started to eat some dried fish. If I ate too much, my mother would find out, so I was careful not to gorge myself. Then the phone rang. I assumed it was from my parents. I answered the phone in an angry manner, but it wasn't them at all. What happened to the house? We had rented it, so maybe somebody else had already moved in. What happened to my room? What about my desk and all the flags that were in the right middle drawer? If it wasn't my house anymore, then where was I supposed to go? Even if it remained my house, my parents wouldn't be there to welcome me or protect me. Just because I didn't have my parents to protect me, the whole world became so cruel. How could anyone take me away from the house I was used to living in just because my parents were gone? Why didn't they just leave me alone? They asked me many things. They tried to confirm many things, but how could I have understood any of the forms they gave me? I was asked a yes or no question. I had no choice but to answer yes. Before I knew it, I ended up at the orphanage. It was beyond heartless. I didn't do anything wrong. I was just a little girl. I had to sign so many papers, but why this? The warm and gentle world ended suddenly without advance notice, and I was thrown into the cruel and merciless world alone. Was this the real world? Did I have any allies at all? Just because my parents died, I didn't have any relatives. The world had become so sad. When is the die going to come up with a 6 instead of a 1 to make up for a continuous series of the latter? Tears were pouring down my cheeks. The salty taste further saddened and irritated me. I couldn't do anything but cry. But no matter how hard I cried or pitied myself, the cold rain wouldn't warm my body or save me. I didn't even know where I was or in which direction I should go. Eriko showed me the map to the House of Love and Mercy when we were planning our escape, but we only learned the shortest route. I was completely lost. But strangely, after I finished crying, I felt a groundless strength within myself. I once learned that tears wash away particles in the eye, but there is a different purpose to them too. Tears also wash away what's in the heart. I clenched my fists and forced my feet to move. I headed in the direction that I believed to be correct on the gravel road. The rain was still pouring, and it was getting darker and darker. I roared at the sky amidst the rain. My sadness was turning into anger.
神様のバカ！どうして私がこんな目に遭わなくちゃならないの？私が何をしたの？何もしてない。ただ普通に生活してただけ。そんな私がどうしてこんな目に遭わなくちゃならないの？人生はいいことと悪いことと2つあって、どちらも長続きしないってお父さんが言ってた。ならこれだって長続きしないんだよね。いつまでも私はこんなひどいところに一人ぼっちじゃないんだよね。ねえ、そうなんでしょ？
As I looked up, I felt the raindrops hit my face. There is no God, I knew that in my heart. But such disbelief wouldn't save me. If I believed he was there, I should have been saved. No, I needed him to be there. Was he going to answer me? Oh my god, I heard thunder. Then I realized he was there. He was there and he was listening to me. In his eyes, everyone was supposed to be equal, and he was listening to me.
もう私は十分辛い思いをした。十分すぎる。これまでがそれに見合うくらいに幸せすぎたなら、でも私は普通の生活をしてきたに過ぎない。それが幸せじゃなかったのかと言われたら、確かにそれは幸せだったのかも。だからってそれの裏返しがこれではあまりに見合わない。
I heard thunder again. He was listening. I continued.
もし私の運命が神様の何かの間違いだというのなら、もう私を解放して、これで私の不幸を終わりにして、私を今日までの不幸に見合う幸福に導いて。
Yep, God, just kill her. Real
でも
quick.
もしこれが私に与えられた運命で、このまま私に生涯を終えろというのなら、こんな人生いらない。私を殺してよ。その雷で私を打ちつければいい。落雷で殺されてしまうという。さあ試してみなさい。私の人生を無慈悲に奪ったように、その雷で無慈悲に私を打ち据えればいい。
I heard thunder again. It was loud enough to make me shiver. Normally I would just hide in the house and wait until the thunder went away, but on that day I wasn't afraid.
さあ殺せ。田無美代子はここにいる。私のお父さんとお母さんを奪ったように、私の命をここから奪え。
I can see the pixels, bro. You can't pee these. He's God, so he wouldn't miss me. However, I guess even God makes mistakes sometimes. Although he's supposed to be fair, he had been unfair with me.
さあ狙え。私を天に連れて行け。だがもし私を殺す、私の運命をひっくり返してみろ。哀れな子。
I thought I smelled something burning just before it hit. The sheer force knocked me to the ground. It was a strange experience. It was something that had just happened, but it already felt like it happened many years ago. I had no idea how long I was down for. I smelled something odd. The bad stench woke me up. When I looked, I saw that a huge tree behind me had been split open. Its leaves were smoldering. I looked up and saw sparks in the darkness. I couldn't understand what just happened. I just stood there. The thunderbolt had struck. It didn't strike me, it just struck the tree behind me. I didn't get to die. He was telling me to keep walking in the wood in the cold rain. I won my bet with God. I bet my life against the lightning and thunder. It could have killed me instantly, but he missed, so he had to fix my life. I looked up at the sky, laughing and bragging that I was still alive. I heard thunder again. It was acknowledging its loss. Come on, God, save me. I won the bet, so save me from this misery. I stood there. I waited for God to do something while the rain poured down on me. I feel like that sounded like Hanyu, but he didn't answer me again. I couldn't hear the thunder anymore. Again, I felt the warm tears pour down my cheeks. What was I thinking? If there was a God in heaven, he wouldn't have let anything like this happen to me. My miserable life was a proof of God's non-existence. The darkness was about to swallow me utterly. Would I have to sleep out there? God must have wanted me to die slowly in this cold rain instead of granting me an instant death by lightning. I wish the sun would go away. I wish the sun would never rise. I wish that as the woods had grown completely dark, my existence would be hidden by that darkness. I wish that I could just disappear. Had it been an eternity or was it a matter of seconds? I couldn't even tell time in such darkness. It was then that I saw something. It was a light. I noticed it only because the woods were so dark. Was it really there? Had it been there this whole time? I felt like the light was inviting me towards it. It was a fluorescent light. I didn't normally like fluorescent lights because I always thought they looked cold, but I didn't feel coldness from that white light. I made myself believe that the light was a guide sent by God. I had to believe, otherwise I wouldn't be saved. The light reflected in a puddle. It wasn't a muddy puddle. It was a puddle on the asphalt. I made it out of the woods and was on paved road. The light was on a street light. Being on a paved road didn't really resolve anything. It was just a country road. It was a road that went through the woods, so there were no houses, no shops, and not even a single car going by. There weren't too many street lights on the road, so it was still very dark. My feet touched the asphalt. It felt so different from the gravel I had been walking on earlier. It felt almost merciful. My feet had grown used to walking on gravel, but after feeling the softness of the asphalt, I never wanted to go back to the former again. I could only choose between heading left or right. I was grateful to God for leading me to this asphalt road, but I wished that He had given me a little more guidance. Such a little bit of luck couldn't make up for all the unhappiness I'd gone through. And that was when I sensed His guidance. I saw another light in the distance. It was only on the right side. I headed towards it. And when I got there, I understood what it was. I was amazed to find it there, a telephone booth. Who would actually make a call in the middle of nowhere? A telephone booth in the countryside was rather unusual. There were plenty of red public phones all over, but I had always thought telephone booths only existed in big cities. It almost looked as though the telephone booth had been put there as a punishment for doing something bad. When I thought that, I felt bad for the lonely telephone booth. It reminded me of myself. Even if I went inside the telephone booth, what would I even do there anyway? I already knew the answer to that question, but no matter what, I just had to get in there. The door squeaked as I opened. There were lots of moths and other bugs flittering around the light. I usually hated bugs, but in that moment, I felt like that they were my friends sheltering from the rain like me. There was no heater, but it was still very warm inside of the booth. It sheltered me from the cold rain. Soon enough, I crumbled to the floor. The warmth from the fluorescent light embraced me gently, and I felt like it was telling me that it was okay to cry. But I had no tears left because I cried them all when the lightning struck. Aching scratches covered my body. My calves were in pain too. Everything hurt everywhere, and I didn't want to get up ever again. I wished I could fall asleep. Can this fucking grandpa find this bitch already so that we can fucking move on with the story? But if I did that, the staff of the orphanage might find me. The windows on the booth were high up, so if I sat down, I wouldn't be visible from the outside. But as it was the only shelter in these dark woods, the staff would be sure to check it. That was why I couldn't stay there for long. Telephone booths from back then were nobody cares. My exhausted spirit understood that I had to move, but I just couldn't make myself. Maybe I was experiencing some kind of vision. I felt a strange calmness that I never experienced before. I didn't feel that I was myself. It was very strange. I thought that maybe I was killed by the lightning. I'd assumed I was still Miyoko Tanashi, but maybe I wasn't her at all. I seriously considered those things. Then I started to think that the telephone booth had something to do with it, because God led me there. He couldn't have done so just because it was providing shelter from the rain. There had to be something else. I wonder what it was. Could there be something in the booth that could save me? But what? The telephone booth is used to make phone calls. But I didn't have any money. But then I noticed something that looked like copper. My heart skipped a beat. The 10 yen coin I saw wasn't there before. Did I just miss it? I didn't think so. Must have just showed up. In other words, this 10 yen coin was guidance from God. He was telling me to make a call with that coin, but who? There was no telephone book. In that case, I could only call a number I knew. Did God want me to do that then? There was only one coin. I could only call one number, and I couldn't talk for that long. I had challenged God earlier, so it was just a matter of course to think that God was challenging me in return. I had only one chance and wanted me to test my luck with that chance. I left the phone booth and looked up at the sky. Then I yelled in my heart, "You're on, God." I wondered who I would call. Who? My house. My parents were dead. I had no relatives. Even if I called, nobody would answer. Actually, my phone bill wouldn't have been paid for a long time, so the phone line would already be disconnected. My house was my lost life itself. No, the debris of my life. Calling a home would simply be an expression of regret, which ran counter to the positive attitude of one trying to change their life. So surely using the coin to call my house was wrong, which meant I had to cast this 10 yen coin towards my future. Future? My future? What future anyway? Then I heard a huge thunderclap which cleared my mind. In that clear state of mind, I saw something from the past. It was the last sight of my father, his final moments on the hospital bed, though suffering from pain. He tried to tell me something very
も
important.
しもな、高野先生、高野、言ってみなさい。
高野。
そう、高野先生、きっと。
お父さん。
Many doctors came into the room in a hurry. He wanted to tell me something else, but the doctor stopped him from talking, so it wasn't audible. It shouldn't have been, but it was to me. I heard it, but I didn't want to hear him say it while suffering, so I pretended that I didn't hear. He said it while coughing. I heard it. They were numbers. I swallowed once. That's right, it was a phone number. He knew nobody would take me in because we had no relatives. He told me to get in touch with Dr. Hifumi Takano. He tried to tell me his phone number. Now what had I done? He tried so hard, using his last chance to tell me the most important thing. The thunder from earlier had made me remember it. The number I couldn't remember even once came out so smoothly. I dialed it in. This really was it. This was the number of my father's teacher, Dr. Takano, but my hand stopped just as I tried to put the coin in. What if I hadn't remembered it correctly? No, there was no need to hesitate. I had to believe in myself. This had to be the correct number. I had to dial it before I forgot it again. I picked up the phone and put the coin in. A beep. I heard the dial tone on the other end. At that point, I decided to kill myself. It didn't work. I could go back into the woods and wait for another lightning bolt. I could lie down and let the rainwater drown me too. I could also fall asleep in the middle of the road and wait for a car to run me over. I made up my mind to put the coin in. I didn't hesitate any longer. I dialed the number at once, but I had to be careful. If you dial it quickly, sometimes you can make a mistake. I was getting irritated and that almost made the phone number go vague in my head. I dialed the last digit and heard some electronic sounds on the other end. I hoped that I dialed the correct number. I didn't know what to say to Dr. Takano if it did connect. Where was I? What was I supposed to do? What was I supposed to ask him? I didn't know any of those things. Making a call isn't cheap. 110 yen would only buy me a short time to talk. The line must have connected then. I heard a ringtone. I only had a short time once someone answered the phone. I thought for a moment that I should put the phone down. Then I could at least get the coin back. I could call back after sorting out my thoughts. But then someone answered. I felt like I was suffocating. My memory had been correct. I couldn't tell the age of the speaker, but it was a grown man's voice. Anyone who was my father's teacher must have been quite old. Never mind that. I had to hurry and say something. Hurry, hurry.
高野先生、ひふみ先生。ん？そうですが、どちら様ですか?
He must have been suspicious. I couldn't blame him. A stranger was asking him about his name. Of course he gets suspicious.
ごめんなさい。私、田無って言います。田無美代。田無さん？はい。私の父は、田無竹光と言います。田無。ああ、田無くん。ああ。
His voice suddenly changed. Dr. Takano had remembered his old student.
私、お父さんに電話し。田無くんに何かあったんですか?
Ah, not good. I was going to run out of time.
お父さんとお母さんが、それで、高野先生。田無くんがお亡くなりに? そうで、二人とも? それは本当にお気の毒。田無くんは私が大学で講師をしていた時、しばらく交流があったことがあります。何事にも勤勉な良い青年でした。結婚式に呼んでもらった時にあったのが最後だったような気がします。
Obviously, he didn't know I was born, but he remembered my father. That was truly a stroke of luck.
それで、田無くん。
I didn't know what to say. I was only told to call Dr. Takano. How could I tell him that? My time was running out. I felt more and more anxious by the minute. Phone calls are disconnected without notice, but somehow I sensed it. I only had enough time left for one sentence, so I decided to say one sentence filled with all my hopes. The phone call got disconnected. Maybe he only heard part of what I said. I could only hope he was able to sense my despair. I couldn't hear anything from the receiver anymore, but I actually talked to Dr. Takano. I confirmed that Dr. Takano existed. He existed and then remembered my father. If he grieved over his student's death, he would come visit my house. And he would find out I was sent to an orphanage. Then he would come get me. That's when tears flowed down my cheeks again. I thought that my life was hopeless. I never knew that finding even a grain of hope would make me feel so happy and strong. The voice I heard on the phone was so warm and dependable. My father must have thought about me for a long time in that hospital bed and came up with a name that he could trust his daughter with, Dr. Hifumi Takano. So I could trust Dr. Takano. I had to believe that he would find me. But it might take more than just a few days. I'd have to wait patiently. A few days? A month? More? I could only wait patiently. Either way, I couldn't stay in the telephone box. The staff would easily find me there. I went out into the rain again, but this time the rain felt a little warmer than before. I had wished to die by lightning, but after that phone call, I was filled with hope and the will to live. I wanted to live, and that was why I felt pain all over my body. When I still wished to die, I didn't feel anything. I had to wait patiently until Dr. Takano came to pick me up. I had to get to the house of love and mercy. That would be the best place to wait for him. I didn't think the orphanage would tell him I escaped to the house of love and mercy, but the house wouldn't stop me from calling him. All I had to do was call him again and let him know where I was. But I didn't know where I could find the house of love and mercy. I couldn't see any signs anywhere. I didn't even know what direction the orphanage I escaped was from, but I couldn't just stop. I had to walk. I had to find shelter. I had to find someone and ask for the directions to the house of love and mercy. I had to keep going because I finally saw the light at the end of the tunnel. God damn, bro, this fucking shit is so long. Can we, like, get to the main story? I'm sick of this fucking Takano flashback. The chills and throbbing pain tormented me, but I couldn't die until I met Takano-sensei. Bro, like, I genuinely wonder what all this Takano flashbacks are for. Are we supposed to feel bad for her? Because, like, I fucking still hate her guts. Like, I don't know. I wish the car would come by. Yeah? Like, bro, none of this makes it reasonable that she's gutting and killing fucking children. Huh? What do you mean? Like, none of this fucking makes like anything different. Like, I don't get the point of these flashbacks. Like, you don't fucking feel an ounce of goddamn like compassion for her. If it was someone who lived in the area, I could ask, but the police wouldn't do me any good. I was sure the orphanage had already called the police about our escape and they wouldn't be forgiving. The police were sure to send me back to the orphanage. Either way, I wish that someone would show up. Otherwise, I'd have to keep waiting or walking on the asphalt in darkness forever. Well, shit. I said short stream and here we are. Fucking, god damn it. Anyways, alright, I guess we'll leave off here, bro. I'm already 6 hours and 20 minutes in. Fucking short stream my ass. The fuck? Ah. Alright. Well, chat. I'm gonna wrap up there for today. Bro, I was supposed to play Dino Game. Hey, look at my bitch ass. I'm fucking playing. Anyways, I'll see y'all tomorrow. Thank you guys for hanging out as always. Yes, sir. I'll send y'all over to Ziox. Fucking Xiao guy. See y'all tomorrow. Good night, everybody. Bye-bye. Tomorrow's we got a long day tomorrow. Holy fuck. Good night. Bye-bye.